In a church on the island of Malta, guests are waiting patiently for the bride, just like her future husband. The big problem is that quite some time has passed now, and the bride is nowhere to be found. The door opens and everyone gets excited, but it's only the groom's mother, Lady Tewkesbury. Rumors that the bride won't show up begin to ripple through the room. The bride is none other than Inola Holmes. She is about to marry Tewkesbury, the young lord who adores her, but her worry is not about him, it is about the name. For years, Inola fought to be seen as a true Holmes, a detective who solves her own cases. Now she is being asked to give that name up and become simply a lady. Even so, she is not willing to leave her fiancé at the altar. She gets into the carriage as fast as she can and asks the driver to go at full speed. Halfway there, a rider is chasing the coach at high speed, mouth covered with a bandana, and he doesn't seem to have good intentions. She leans out of the cart, gets her dress torn, grabs a rifle, and climbs to the top of the carriage. Right before she pulls the trigger, the man uncovers his face. It is the family friend, Dr. Watson. The shock causes her to lose her balance, and she takes a nasty fall from the speeding carriage. When she stands up and tells him off for approaching with a bandana over his face like a common bandit, Watson reveals he has come with terrible news. Sherlock, her brother, the greatest detective alive, is missing, and Watson believes he has been kidnapped. To understand how we arrived at this moment, we must go back a little. Life had been good. Inola had finally taken her place beside the great detectives of the age. She worked together with her brother. He took care of the rich, and she took care of the poor to gain experience. And on the weekends, those days belonged to Ernest Tewkesbury, the boy who had stolen her heart and who owned every single one of her smiles. Their relationship had grown stronger with the years, until one day he dropped to one knee and proposed. She said yes without a second of doubt. For once in her life, she was simply happy. There was only one shadow. Sherlock had grown strange and distant, buried in maps and symbols he would not explain. He had become so consumed by a case that he stopped writing in any language Inola could read, inventing his own private code to keep her entirely in the dark. The news of the female detective turning into a lady spread quickly throughout London and became the talk of the town, though Sherlock was the last to know. When he finally found out, he agreed to walk his sister down the aisle, though he never agreed with the wedding being held in Malta. It was Lady Tewkesbury who chose the island, a way to honor her late husband, who had served and married there. It held a very high sentimental value for the family, and so Inola simply couldn't say no. When Inola traveled to Malta to meet Ernest's mother, she was asked about the guest list and handed over a small scrap of paper with only 3 names, her brother Watson and no one else. Her mother had climbed to the top of the city's most wanted list and could not safely attend. From that day on, the luxuries, the pompous wedding gowns, and everything that comes with becoming a lady began to appear, including the massive dinners with important, boring people who only turned to look at her in order to criticize her immediately. At the banquet table, the governor was present, and the brigadier general, godfather of the groom, rose to make a toast. His words carried a quiet insult, mocking the idea that a great lord would ever marry a woman of such humble background, drawing a slight chuckle from the guests, and expressing the hope that the match wouldn't delay Ernest's political advancement in the House of Lords. Inola smiled through it, but the room had shown her its true face. What caught Sherlock's attention that evening, however, was a mysterious figure watching from the upper story, keeping out of sight like a hawk stalking its prey. After dinner, Inola noticed that her brother was upset and went to his room to discuss the matter. He told her straight out that he never expected this from her, accepting a tradition she didn't know and a cookie-cutter life in exchange for a title she wouldn't use seemed utterly disappointing to him. Giving up the family name and her talents as a great detective was the biggest mistake she could ever make. Inola told him nothing would change, but Sherlock was absolutely sure that nothing would ever be the same. Inola fired back. Her father was dead. Her mother was a ghost, always at risk. And if this was how her brother chose to love her, she would rather lose the name forever. She called him a bastard and walked out. That was the last time she saw him. Now on the island, Inola steps into Sherlock's room and reads it like a page. It has been torn apart, yet his garments lie untouched. Whoever did this knew him well enough to know he didn't care about them. The pipe is still warm, which shows he was taken only hours ago. She opens one of his notebooks and finds nothing but codes. Then she notices the thread design of a dress on the floor. She is sure Sherlock has left her some clue, and soon she sees it, a faint mark scratched on the mirror, a Morse code left by a man being dragged away. One word rises out of it: Coast. A city in Afghanistan. It makes no sense yet, but it is a thread. Watson sees that the wedding guests are already returning. Inola rushes down. As she walks toward Ernest to explain, she spots the officer who had been lurking on the upper story the night of the banquet, and seeing her, he takes off running. Inola gives chase through the streets of Malta. The man runs into a corner and is suddenly shot. Inola sees a window slamming shut above and races toward the man. The dying officer whispers only one thing: wrath, before taking his last breath. Back at her room, Inola tries to make head or tail of the situation from all the clues she has. 2 words, host and wrath, that seem to have no connection at all. She is still trying to decipher the codes in her brother's diary when she senses someone lurking at her door. She grabs a candlestick and strikes first, without realizing she has just broken the nose of her fiancé, who had come to find her. She instantly apologizes and tries to tend to him. But when he sees the blood on her hands, something shifts. He has heard that Sherlock is missing. She explains everything that happened, but the only thing the injured young man can focus on is that she was rushing toward the wedding at full speed, which means to him that she had been on the verge of backing out. He sincerely hopes she finds her brother, but as far as their relationship, their wedding, and his feelings for her are concerned, he has nothing to say right now. He leaves the room. Alone with her thoughts, Inola makes her way to a spot Tewkesbury had first brought her, a cave by the sea where his father had once sworn treasure was hidden. Every summer as a boy, he had begged to go inside with a match, certain they would find a chest of gold. Those were the happiest days of his life. Meanwhile, somewhere in a dungeon, Sherlock is chained up in the dark. The next morning, the castle wakes up in a total panic. Flames are spreading through the property. Inola runs immediately to look for Tewkesbury, who went into the fire to rescue his mother, but neither of them has come out yet. She rushes through the smoke and fire, hears his voice, and finds him. He sees the doorknob has been forced open and immediately understands his mother has been taken. Watson tends to both of them. She turns to Watson and asks what her brother would do. He cannot answer as Sherlock would, but he offers something better. A story. When he first moved in with Sherlock, he hoped they could be friends and prepared tea for him every evening, asking about his cases. Sherlock never responded. Watson eventually gave up. Then one day, Sherlock brought in the tray himself. The tea was awful, Watson admits. But for the first time, Sherlock told him about his case. Watson stands up and says that Sherlock isn't here, but she is, and he believes her brain is the equal of his. She brings Tewkesbury a cup of tea, and they begin to talk. He asks whether she believes it was the same people who kidnapped his mother. She is certain. He asks when he last saw her. He replies at 9 o'clock to say goodnight. After he leaves, Inola wonders why they would burn the house down after already taking her away, and she understands. The kidnappers were searching for something, couldn't find it, and burned everything so that no one else could either. She goes back into Lady Tewkesbury's room and begins a search. Her valuable jewelry is untouched. They aren't dealing with petty thieves. But under the mattress, there is a small box bearing a symbol she has seen before in her brother's journals. Inside is a set of old war medals. Suddenly, she senses someone at the door. She hides with a sharp object, and when a man slips in, she grabs him by the neck and demands to know where Sherlock is. A fight breaks out between them. She ends up with the upper hand, and with him in a chokehold, he finally speaks. He says he believes her brother was taken by Professor Adeline Wrath. He says she is a ghost, and a brutal one. She has the ear of the governor, appeared on the island a year ago, and is not to be trusted. Wrath, the dying officer's word, was a name all along. He lets himself be helped up. He says his name is Michiel, and he is from the anti-reform party. He and many others have fought for a Malta free from the British Empire, and he was following Wrath hoping she might lead him to her hideout. Just then, he notices the police arriving. Michiel takes off immediately, saying he will find her. The police bring Inola to the station, where Sergeant Indri tries to interrogate her about the body in the street and her failure to report the murder. When Inola mentions the name Adeline Wrath, the officer grows visibly nervous. Before they can go further, the governor himself, Samson, barges in alongside Tewkesbury. He scolds the sergeant for holding Inola, declaring her untouchable and calling her presence in this awful place an offense worthy of dismissal on the spot. He lets her go and apologizes for the inconvenience. Outside, Inola shows Tewkesbury the medals. He says they might be his father's war medals, meant to be a wedding gift. Then she spots a woman in the crowd whose dress bears the same embroidery as the thread she found on the floor of her brother's room. The summer carnival is in full swing, and Inola pushes through the crowd after her, following her through a door and into a wide underground tunnel. The woman turns with a gun and tells Inola she has made a mistake. Just then, a shot rings out from behind, and the woman falls. As she dies, she manages only a whisper of warning. Wrath will kill her too. Inola crawls forward and pieces it all together. The person pulling all the strings is Professor Moriarty. She has been hiding in plain sight, listening to everyone, playing them all like a private game. And she is the one holding Sherlock. Instantly, a rope wraps around Inola's neck from above. She manages to pull her attacker down, and it is Moriarty herself. Inola screams, asking if her brother is dead. The woman responds, "Not yet." She admits to having Sherlock locked away and to having thoroughly enjoyed torturing him. She mocks Tewkesbury's heartbroken expression at the altar, saying that she didn't need to kill him. Watching him suffer was quite enough. Moriarty attacks with a shovel and is on the verge of killing her when another figure suddenly appears. Eudoria, the mother of the Holmes family, armed with a rifle and determined to save her family. Moriarty pulls out a glycerin grenade. hurls it against the wall to blast open a tunnel, and escapes through the smoke. Inola is furious with her mother, but Eudoria explains that she had traveled to Malta to witness the wedding even though she couldn't show herself to the public. She is a fugitive, and it was not easy for her to come forward. She only wanted to see her daughter walk down the aisle and keep that memory in her mind. Inola hugs her. Then Eudoria gives her the key she needs. Inola must look not only at what is right in front of her, but at what has been left behind. In the quiet that follows, Inola and Ernest find their way back to one another. He tells her he never wanted to trap her. He only ever wanted her. She tells him that when she accepted to be his wife, she said yes to him and to what they had together at that moment. But then came the dinners, the high social status, the manners, everything she wasn't used to, which made her feel completely overwhelmed, as if she didn't belong. Together, they take refuge in a beach shack, and for one stolen afternoon, they swim in the sea and let the danger fall away. Whatever comes next, they will face it together. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Moriarty brings water to Sherlock, who drinks desperately. He asks her to give water to Lady Tewkesbury as well, and tells her he will play along with her game if she does. Apparently, Lady Tewkesbury hadn't been able to stop talking about the wedding to everyone, and couldn't decide on a location. At one of the dinners, the lady in a violet dress had reminded her of the very place where she had married her husband. Adeline was just a pawn, used to befriend the old woman and convince her that a wedding in Malta would be ideal. Sherlock asks whether this is all an act of revenge. Moriarty says his mother blew up a post office and no one flinches, but she steals from the corrupt and they send her to prison. She is tired of the hypocrisy. Just as she is about to leave, Sherlock reminds her of the water for Lady Tewkesbury. She picks up the bottle and pours every drop onto the floor. Back at the tent, the full team gathers: Eudoria, Watson, Mekiel, Tewkesbury, and Inola. She wants everyone to leave so she can think, but Tewkesbury steps forward with a solid clue. The woman in the purple dress who was killed at the carnival was wearing a very expensive high society hat from Garrett & Company. She was no rebel. She was a spy for Moriarty, moving through high society undetected. Inola remembers the two men the woman was speaking to before she died. One was the governor. The other wore a fox mask, and he was wearing medals. After comparing them to the medals from the box, they find the match immediately. The dead man in the alley, the governor, and the man in the fox mask all share the same medal, bearing the word Afghanistan and the silhouette of an elephant. Watson identifies it as belonging to those who saw conflict in the Battle of Khost. Ernest confirms that his father fought there, alongside his godfather, the Brigadier General. To reach the general's secrets, the team has to be as devious as Moriarty herself. Watson and Tewkesbury head into the military office to speak with the Brigadier directly, while Mekiel, Inola, and Eudoria sneak into the building. An officer appears, and Eudoria attempts to bluff her way through with a posh accent, but the plan falls apart almost immediately, so she simply draws her gun and makes him lead them to the records room. Inside, they hunt for anything tied to the Battle of Khost. The records have been torn away, but the indentation marks from the writing remain pressed into the pages beneath. Inola takes a pencil and begins to trace the impressions. The officer stirs, and Eudoria brings a heavy file down on his head, putting him back to sleep. The truth rises up, and it is ugly. During the Battle of Khost, British and Maltese troops carried out a massacre and plundered a full ton of gold from a sacred Afghan shrine. The records called it a cleansing. It was nothing but theft and slaughter. The name Sergeant Smith appears. He was the inside man. Inola barges into the office where Tewkesbury is sitting with the Brigadier and declares everything she has found. Ernest desperately asks whether his father was a good man. The Brigadier says they were under pressure. This was war, and difficult choices were made. The operation, the theft, the killing, the lie, it was led by his own father. The man Tewkesbury had grown up worshipping as a hero. Inola asks where the gold is now. The Brigadier reveals that during the return voyage, Lord Tewkesbury suffered a breakdown over what they had done. He waited for everyone to disembark, then took the ship back out to sea and sank it, telling the others the gold was lost with it. He would never say where it was. He only ever called it pirate gold. The British were furious and punished the Maltese soldiers, letting innocent men take the fall for it. The phrase hits Inola like a thunderclap. She thinks of what Ernest once told her about the cave, how as a boy his father would take him inside with a match, and they would pretend they were pirates hunting for treasure. And then she sees the whole picture at once. Moriarty doesn't know where the gold is, but she knows that Inola will figure it out. That is why she would never kill her, even though she easily could. She realizes now that it was Moriarty who left the clues, the Morse code on the mirror, the thread on the floor, all of it. She built the entire labyrinth, knowing that only a member of the Holmes family could navigate it. Inola stops running the maze and starts to build one of her own. She walks into the cave and lets Moriarty follow her straight to the treasure. She finds a submerged chain in the darkness and pulls it with all her strength, and a wooden chest rises from the bottom of the ocean. She breaks the padlock. The gold is real, enough for a person to live a peaceful life, but far from the full ton that was stolen. She comes out of the cave, and Dr. Watson is being held at gunpoint by Moriarty, who is flanked by a dozen heavily armed men covering every direction. Moriarty says Sherlock will be released as soon as she gets what she needs. Inola doesn't trust her. But just as Moriarty begins to gloat about the blood on every great name, about empires built from other people's pain, Inola smiles because she is not the only one with friends. Tewkesbury appears, accompanied by Michiel and 20 men who follow him faithfully in his revolutionary struggle, closing in from every side with weapons raised. In the chaos that follows, Moriarty pulls 2 grenades from her pockets, detonates them, and runs. Inola goes after her on horseback, a fierce chase that ends at a nearby dungeon, where hand-to-hand combat begins. Inola flags, but she thinks of Tewkesbury and finds her strength again. Moriarty fights with a knife, but Inola fights with everything she has and puts her down. She runs into the dungeon and finally finds her brother, and beside him, Lady Tewkesbury, both bound and weak in the dark. Sherlock tells her to free Lady Tewkesbury first. Inola breaks their bonds with shaking hands. Then a shot rings out. Moriarty is back, armed, and she takes control of the room once more. She goes to Inola and kicks her repeatedly. But from behind, Lady Tewkesbury slowly makes her way to Sherlock to untie his remaining bonds. Inola, fallen and weak, remembers her brother's voice telling her that being emotional is understandable but unnecessary. She murmurs to herself that it is, in fact, very necessary. Sherlock gets behind Moriarty and smashes her to the ground, pointing the gun at her, fully furious, hand trembling. It is Inola who pulls him back. "This is not who we are," she tells him. To become killers now would be to let Moriarty win in the only way that truly matters. Sherlock looks at his sister for a long moment and lowers the weapon. Out of nowhere, Lady Tewkesbury smashes Moriarty's head with a rock, knocking her. In the days that follow, Moriarty is arrested and sent to the highest security prison in Britain, with no chance of escape. Tewkesbury takes control of the situation. He promises to return the gold to Afghanistan, back to the people it was taken from, and begins a process to free Malta from British influence, even if that means his beloved uncle will face serious charges on the island. The brigadier, to his credit, accepts his arrest willingly. The governor is also taken into custody. As for the old general, unable to live with the shame of what has come to light, he quietly takes his own life. Once Sherlock is safe, the siblings make peace. He admits he was wrong to belittle her. She is a Holmes, he says. But in truth, she is so much more than that, and he thanks her for everything. That night, as Inola spends time with Ernest, she tells him she will keep her last name. He says he is resigning his title as well. No more lord, no more grand estate, no more expectations. He will take on her family name instead, and they will meet in the middle. He announces, with a laugh, that this means his name will become something wonderfully strange. She is surprised but accepts it nonetheless. So the wedding is held not in a grand church with a long guest list, but on the cliff where Tewkesbury lived the best moments of his life, surrounded only by the people who love them. Eudoria is there. She believes her daughter has chosen the right man. She reflects on Inola's name, backwards of alone, and says it has fortunately not cursed her. Michiel can't stop telling anyone who will listen about his membership in the Reformist Party. Lady Tewkesbury blesses the couple warmly, and in front of their family and friends, Inola Holmes and Tewkesbury exchange their vows with total sincerity and seal their love with a kiss.